Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales and welcome to our One Ring one shot, our second one shot of January, in a return to the lands of Middle Earth as laid down, obviously by Tolkien mainly, but also by the fine folks at Free League in this lovely new edition of the One Ring. I say new, it's probably a couple of years old now, or at least a year old. Not sponsored. We just love them. And I love this version of One Ring. So I thought I'd wave it at the camera. There we go. Lovely stuff. So we've done this once before, a couple of years ago now. And it was the same sort of notion that I would adapt a story from Lord of the Rings Online, my favorite MMO ever. And one of the strengths of that game is its sort of narrative and the stories it lays down within Tolkien's world. And yeah, I adapted that. People seem to like it, so we're here to do more of it, basically. We have the same crew as last time, plus an additional player joining the fold, but I'll leave them as a surprise for when their character turns up. We will get to introducing players and introducing characters in a little bit, but first I want to get the promo out of the way, and then I'll do a very little recap for those of you who haven't seen the previous one shot. So, Telling Tales. If you check below, you will find a number of links. There's links to our Twitch and links to our YouTube. You're watching this on one of those websites. Please check out the other one. Twitch if you want to catch us live. YouTube if you want to catch our really quite large now catalogue of back streams, lots of systems, lots of games for you to enjoy. There's also links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon, if those kind of things interest you. At the moment, we are running 2 weekly series. There is Vason on Mondays, which is, I call it Victorian Hellboy. It's kind of folk horror, investigatory 1800s stuff. Johnny runs that on a Monday evening, and I run Simbaroom, the dark fantasy world, again from Free League. Everything's from Free League that we do at the moment, apparently. And Simbaroom's our longest running thing, and that's on Wednesdays. We also run one shots once a month, or in the case of this month, twice a month, because we already did an Alien one a couple of weeks ago. And all of that stuff is all on our YouTube if you want to go check out any past streams. That's the promo stuff. That's out of the way. Let's talk about this game, and let's talk about what happened last time. So essentially, where our characters, actually, shall I introduce the players first, or shall I give the that? I'm just getting a load of shrugging on the screens at the bottom of my thing. Like, I don't know. It's up to you, man. Let's. Sam seems to think we should introduce the characters, introduce the players first. So let's do that. So with that in mind, let's bring on our first player. Let's bring on Pierre. Pierre plays Herb Rushlight, Man of Bree. Pierre, tell us a little bit about Herb.
Herb is a sort of somewhat stocky, maybe portly gentleman in his 40s. He's got this sort of curly kind of ginger hair with a few flecks of grey going through them. But it's clear that he's maybe seen some action in his past, as he sort of walks with a little bit of a limp, and his hands are a bit rougher than you might expect, given he seems like a very sort of jovial and friendly person. And yeah, his armor looks like it was made for a much younger man. It's out of date and kind of a little bit ill-fitting. And yeah, he's looking for his son,
like a kind of warrior gone to seed. A little bit is Herb Rushlight. Absolutely. Let's bring on our second player. It's Sam, who plays Otho Mucklefoot. Sam, tell us about Otho.
Yeah, hello. So Otho is a kind of young to middle-aged hobbit, at the age of 54, I think that's about right. He's again quite a chunky for a hobbit. He considers himself a bit of a warrior. He's
chunky for a hobbit. Oh,
I know. So practically huge. So he's quite well equipped. He's got an old kind of a really old-fashioned shield that he carries around himself all the time, called knotted wood, which is made from an old kind of rooted knot of an oak tree. He's kind of he had a little bit of a troubled upbringing in the Shire, and ended up moving to the east across to the Brandywine River and that area. Now he walks. A lot of his time has been spent patrolling the High Hay on the eastern boundary of Hobbiton. because he's a little bit exiled from the rest of these places. He does little
Right.
bits and bobs of work, and he does a bit of
He's
guiding.
he's a bounder. He beats the bounds,
Exactly,
as
yeah.
Tolkien would put it. Wonderful. And speaking of hobbits, let's bring on our next player, Holly. Holly plays Winky Bracegirdle. Holly, tell us all about your wonderful character.
So Winky is a older hobbit, and entering the waning years of her life, and up until recently was a farmer, but in a tragic incident, her husband was crushed in a cow-related incident. And so she's decided to re-examine her life and set forth and adventure the area west of the Misty Mountains in order to complete her book that she's working on, Bracegirdle's Guide to the Habitats and Flora West of the Misty Mountains. She's kind of reckless, and as such, her family has insisted upon her having a bodyguard, which is Otho. She's not too happy about that, but she'll keep them happy.
Neither is Otho. It's fine. It's a mutual sort of feeling.
Sure. So there we go. The most hilariously tragic backstory I've ever had in a TTRPG. Let's bring on not our final player today, but our final player from the previous one shot. It's Inga, who confusingly plays Ingrid. Watch as I completely swap those around by accident all the way through this.
Inga, I have fun reminding myself of that when I checked out the character sheet. It was, I think it was from the rule book as one of the suggested names, and I was like, gotta do it, gotta confuse everyone. Sorry.
No, I would do it myself. So, Ingrid, tell us about Inga.
She is budding and is kind of the opposite of Herb in a lot of ways. So she is quite young and sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, or at least was at the start of the adventure, from a fairly wealthy family, and is on a sort of like rite of passage kind of, I don't want to say jolly around Middle Earth, but it's kind of a gap year type of thing. You travel around, make connections, see a bit of the world, and to help kind of build the connections with like other merchant families and things, and has somehow fallen in with all of this lot. But she is very much the kind of the start of all of her journeying and adventuring, and her armor is brand new, was brand new and shiny and well fitting and perfect. Starting to get the wear on it now, but very much at the opposite end of her journeying than some of the others.
Taking a few dings now. So this band of unlikely companions essentially came together by force, in that they were all kidnapped off the road by a group of bandits, and were then sprung from their prison by a ranger by the name of Amdir, who brought them out of this temporary bandits. These buildings, these bandits had sort of taken over, and you set the place on fire and would have made a very good escape if it was not for the arrival of a fearsome black rider who left Amdir grievously injured and left the company retreating to the shelter of the nearby village of Archet, where you found that all was not sunshine and roses there either. And the very same bandits who had captured you were also terrorizing the local landscape of Breland, calling themselves the Black Wolves, and having sort of infiltrated various villages there, and kind of treachery was afoot. The captain of Archet sort of underestimated this threat, and you had to enlist the aid of his son, John Brackenbrook, in order to eventually rally the folk of Archet and carry out a desperate defense, which ended with a great deal of Archet being burned to the ground, a number of the friends you'd made along the way being cut down, and finally Amdir, the wounded ranger who had helped you, being led away from this conflict by mysterious and terrifying figures robed in red, seemingly going with them willingly, which was confusing and frightening. But in the end, Archet was at least somewhat saved, and John Brackenbrook had said that if you want to help Amdir and find and rescue him and perhaps deal with the Black Wolves more thoroughly, you should strike out for the south to another town called Combe. And that is essentially where we left things. I don't think I've left anything massive out there. I think that's pretty much it. In terms of anything that's happened between the two sessions, for anyone who's was watching the whole thing, we have done a fellowship phase between the last one and this one, which involved a little creative manipulating of the timeline for me, or my intended timeline anyway. But we have carried out a fellowship phase, but not much has been. We've had a bit of recovery going on, and I believe Holly bought a point in battle, presumably from Winky seeing people fight for the first time and going, "Oh yes, I get how this is meant to work."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think Otho took a point of healing. Is that right?
No, I took a point of athletics. We did
Oh,
lots of
I
running
took a
about.
point. Yeah.
Okay. Point of athletics, point in healing. And Inga, did you buy anything or did you save it? Saving it up.
Saving it.
Cool. Okay, so those are the only differences in our characters. We only had kind of 6 skill and adventure points to work with, so not much could get bought. So I think we are more or less good to kick off. Let me, for anyone unfamiliar, what I've been doing with these is, because the story is based on Lord of the Rings Online, I'm using screenshots from Lord of the Rings Online, which is very convenient, but also very time consuming. So, because I have to basically play through the entire story again to get all the stuff. It's only the 20th or so time I've done it. So here we go. You left Archet about a week ago, and the journey to the south was not that eventful. Ultimately, it only took you the best part of a day to travel south from Archet to Combe. And there you found a village entirely unflustered by the events to the north, to the point where you're not sure anyone until you arrived even knew that Archet had been sort of barricaded and stopped. People had been stopped from traveling between the two towns. The kind of idyllic calm left you. It was a relief, but also probably quite frustrating, considering the events to the north. I will show you your first. That was your first view of Combe as you travel down the road from Archet. Combe is a bit more of like a sprawling settlement than Archet was. Less, there are no walls for a start. It's kind of that central sort of market area that you can see the road leading to there sprawls out into several streets where houses are dotted around. You'd say that it's probably quite a bit larger than Archet, but probably has around the same population of maybe a couple of hundred people. They're just sprawled all over the place rather than in a central defensible position. Ahead of you there, as it opens out to the market, is the Combe and Wattle Inn, which I honestly can't remember if John had said to go there at the end last time, but if he didn't, he did now. In fact, you were maybe told the name of the proprietor who might be able to help you, a woman called Lisbeth Honeymead. And I think he said, just go to the constabulary and tell them what's happened and everything will be fine. So do we think everything has been fine a week later? Just a general gauge from the players? Probably not.
I guess no.
Let's start by looking at... let me see. Can I do this? Just normally? Yay! So that's a closer view of the Combe and Wattle Inn, where you've been spending the last week, because when you arrived, it became apparent that the local constabulary and the local people didn't believe you that Archet had been attacked by the Black Wolves. They consider the Black Wolves to be kind of like a pesky, low-level threat, albeit one that has got a bit more sort of aggravating in the last year or so. And in order to establish that you were telling the truth, they've said that someone will be sent north to Archet in order to double-check your story. But they're not just going to take the word of anyone who wanders in off the road about these things. So you have been sat in the Combe and Wattle Inn in some rooms there, probably quite frustrated and increasingly anxious as the days have rolled by. That does mean you've been able to have a fellowship phase on the plus side, so that was presumably something of relief. And let's just jump round and just very quickly talk about anything you might have been doing in the interim. To do that, we'll talk about your fellowship undertakings that you've done as well. So I think we settled on strengthen fellowship and gather rumors. And let's talk about them at the end of just a little round we do. But what I want to do is go through you one by one and just say what kind of things your character might have been up to in this intervening few days. And let's just do it in the order we're on screen. So Pierre, I think I know your answer, but what has Herb Rushlight been up to?
Right, yeah, he's kind of had a certain restless energy amongst like the group, and he has been sort of trying to ask anyone and everyone about his son Rem, if they've heard anything about anyone matching his description, anything at all. He's been pestering people who've been kind of mostly, I think, pushing him off, but yeah, we'll see how successful he's been. Aside from that, he has occasionally been convinced by the others in the fellowship to try and like rest for a moment, because he was pretty exhausted by the last sort of calamity, and yeah, occasionally he's been sitting down, but mostly he's just been trying to find anyone who will talk to him about his son.
Absolutely, and I'm going to assume that means you would have perhaps talked to Lisbeth Honeymead, the proprietor, about your son. That's good. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to check that. Sam, what about Otho? What's he been up to?
So I imagine Otho, outside of having to constantly keep an eye on Winky and probably follow Winky around, which probably took quite a lot of my time, I expect, has been having a nice rest, because it was quite a tiring time. And probably also just getting to know the area a bit, and maybe just sitting down and playing some of my flute. I think we didn't choose write a song, so maybe I haven't actually managed to make a song. Perhaps I've been trying to and not really succeeded.
Yeah,
it's not
maybe
been
maybe next fellowship phase we can write a song about Archit. Okay, how about Winky?
I think Winky, when she's not been adding entries to her journal, has been attempting, if not particularly successfully, to learn a bit better how to use her weapons. Probably getting a little bit of training from Otho, and maybe a couple of the others as well when they've got time. But yeah, otherwise just focusing on the journal.
Absolutely. And finally, how about Ingrid?
Yeah, I mean, she came out like completely unscathed and stuff. I mean, in terms of the fights and stuff last time. So she's probably the calmest, maybe, and most like robust at this point in time, at least. So I think probably, yeah, the exact stuff, like chatting to the fellowship, like the rest of the guys, if there's anything else, like, probably help with doing some of the rounds, asking about Herb's son, if he wants a hand with some of that, if Winky wants a hand with some, practicing the sword or whatever, like, we'll indulge in some of that and help her out with it. But I think outside of that, would also, just be trying to get to know the town a little bit, in a totally like not in a like manipulative way at all, like, just kind of getting friendly with like the town, and like, hopefully convincing them that we're, honest, legit, and everything we have to say is true. And also, kind of scoping out like, well, what are the stories here? Are there any like, treasures and adventures, and who are the local merchants? Just kind of getting a feel for the town and getting to know the lay of the land, really.
Absolutely.
How things work here.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about how your undertakings will work out from this. So for a start, let's talk about fellowship points. These are points where you're resting that you can use to distribute extra hope points between people. They return to full at the beginning of every session, so we have a full complement of fellowship points. They're determined by the number of people in your party, which will be 5 once the extra player joins you. And I believe, Pierre, that Herb Rushlight also, because he's a man of Brie, adds an extra fellowship point to the group. I believe that's the case.
I will double check that, but that does ring a bell.
I think it is the case, and it's in your. It should be in your cultural blessing. I think it's your cultural blessing. It's called in the Menabrie section. It should list it there. But either way, I believe that leaves you with 6 fellowship points. I can't remember who monitored them last time, but does anyone want to volunteer as fellowship point monitor? For the purpose of tracking those. Okay, Pierre, there we go.
Sure.
So yeah, I believe you'll start with 6, so there's that. And the undertakings, one which you've chosen is Strength and Fellowship. And I believe that Strength and Fellowship just straight up adds an extra fellowship point until the next fellowship phase. Is that correct?
Session.
As well? I think so. Should have double checked.
Strengthen that fellowship. I mean, it does sound very plausible.
It would make sense given you could do another strength and fellowship at the next fellowship phase. So
I think that is the case. But yeah, the fellowship rating goes up by 1 until next fellowship phase. So that's 7 in that case. Yep. PS, that's not bad at all.
So much fellowship.
And the gather rumors. Well, we'll feed that into the opening few scenes. But that will it just gives you a rumor to follow up rather than having to find something yourself. So I will work that into the first few scenes. But as we are doing that, let's just say, who amongst you thinks you would be the first to rise on one summer's day a week later?
I think me. I think I can't sleep that well.
2 of you, perhaps not coincidentally, not the hobbits, put their hands up. So I will just roll a die for that. It is Inga. Inga rises first. Ingrith, more technically, rises first on this day, and descends downstairs to the Comb and Wattles main room, which looks like that. That's Elizabeth behind the bar there. As you descend to the bottom of the stairs, and I'm happy to say the others of you are sort of close enough to wakefulness that perhaps you can hear the conversation going on in that main room over the low hubbub of a tavern room at the early part of the day. And as you step down, Ingrith, Lisbeth looks over to you with a bright smile and says, "Oh my, look here, a real life hero. It's not often we get such respectable folk through here." She's been polite to you, but this seems to be a change in tune.
Morning, Elizabeth. Does this mean we've had news back from Archit?
Oh yes. Constable Underhill, he took that walk on up to Archit and came back last night with one of them rangers. Not sure why he's keeping that kind of company, but he said not a word of what you said were a falsehood. I do apologize, but you can't trust the word of anyone who wanders in off the road these days.
Well, right you are. We've certainly had our own trouble with strangers on the road, so I certainly couldn't hold it against you. Just really glad we've had some good news. You said that the ranger came with him.
At this point, obviously, Herb, you said you were up and about anyway. Do you want to kind of enter in as this conversation is now happening?
Sure. I'll come downstairs.
Yes. Oh, my tongue does run on. So that stranger the constable was with, he asked me to send you upstairs to his room as soon as you awoke. Across the room there, well, you just came from them. His is the door at the end of the upper hall. He said you shouldn't delay none, but, well, if you don't mind, could you keep it quiet that I have one of them Northmen here? The Comb and Wattle is normally a nice place.
Absolutely. They didn't mention the name of this ranger, did they?
No. And I don't... You see a couple of them going through the town now and then, but I didn't recognize this one. But dirty and well-travelled as they all are. Ooh.
Yeah.
We should wait. Go get the others.
I agree.
I'll brush back up and
Okay.
yeah, knock on the doors.
As you rush off to do that, Herb, you're presumably leaving a little slower. Oh, and Mr. Rushlight, I almost forgot. Constable Wren was in here last night. She made mention of your boy. She said she'd seen him. I don't rightly know where she is now, though. Somewhere about town, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. If the others come down, tell them I had to go and see the constable about my son. They'll understand, and I will leave the tavern in whatever direction I think the constabulary might be.
They'd be all like you've seen them, but she literally could be anywhere in the town or in the immediate environs of the town.
Are there many constables in the town?
No, like maybe 2 or 3 that you've seen.
Okay, so it's not like I could just find one and ask them if they have seen something. Okay.
It might be, obviously do what you want. It might be a task better suited to doing as the group.
Okay.
Or
yeah.
You know.
I'll yeah. I mean, Herb knows that, like, he knows how easy it is to find these people, and it's not easy. So sure, I'll reconsider and just, on second thought, I'll
get
maybe
others.
I'll need the others. And I'll head upstairs.
Right, you are, Mr. Rushlight.
Inga.
Okay. Yeah, the hobbits are being roused by a banging on the door.
Otho is like there at the door on the first knock, just like, okay, what are we doing?
News from Archit, and a ranger's come back with Constable Underhill. We're to see him in the room along the hall.
News from Archit, so they know now then.
Yeah, they know that everything we've said is true. Got a much friendlier greeting this morning.
Finally, I've been tired of all these funny looks. Tall folk are so mean
sometimes. Can expect a nice big breakfast this morning as well.
And we're going to go talk to someone
is
first.
Immediately right behind you. Immediately after that word, Winky is immediately behind you.
Like Otho's belly like rumbles at the sound, and then you go, "Wait, we had to go talk to someone first."
That's the price to pay, I'm afraid. Depending on how long it took to rouse the hobbits, I don't know whether Herb's joined us again or not.
Yeah, I'd probably emerge, and I'm going to be like, "Yep, there's. Unfortunately, guys, there's going to be no time for breakfast this morning because there's a new lead in where my son is. We just have to find Constable Wren. But perhaps we can just go down the hall and check on this Northman." I say possibly a bit too loud.
Otho's giving you such evils.
Yeah, Lisbeth asked us to be a little discreet, but I'm sure as soon as they realise like just how helpful and they've been, it'll all be fine. But they did say without delay. Are you ready? You're decent.
I will start walking in the direction that I think this room is from the chaotic instructions.
Yeah, Winky's just going to be grumbling about not having breakfast in the back.
Absolutely. Well, the directions that Elizabeth gave you, it sounds like this ranger's room is kind of just up the stairs and across from where you are, not too far. The common wattle is quite a large inn, but it's only so large, so it only takes you a minute or so to find the right door. You can't hear anything from within, and I'm assuming we are knocking.
Yeah.
Yep.
You hear a man's voice call out from inside. You get the sense that it was come in or the equivalent of that.
We'll open the door and enter.
Okay. Inside a large, mostly empty room that you get the notion perhaps until recently was used for storage rather than as an extra room for travelers. Inside it is relatively dark and the shadows reach out quite a way across the floor. The main light is from a dusty old window which shines down on a man dressed in very similar clothes to those of Amdir, battered and worn traveling gear in a sort of off kind of a creamy off-white and a light green. He sits there with his hood mostly over his face and turns up to you as you walk in. The heroes of Archit, I suppose.
Well, I, I suppose.
Well, I am pleased to finally meet you. I'm sorry for the cryptic summons, but I dared not betray my whereabouts to just anyone. There is much we need to discuss. Will you hear me?
Of course.
He gestures around. There are a couple of other chairs in there and a bed, as you can see. And as you walk in, he, as if forgetting that such a thing might be of comfort to other people, he turns and kind of quickly starts the fire in the hearth and stokes it up to a fine roar, which makes it quite warm in here. It is a summer's day, even though it's a cold interior. How are we gathering around? Is anyone? See in my head the hobbits are on the bed because that's incredibly adorable. Just kind of dangling their feet off the edge. But
beds are always more comfortable than chairs, so that makes sense.
Sure.
I was also going to say my grumbling belly means that I must look around the room to see if there's any food lying about anywhere, just on the off chance.
Well, you know what? This gives us a lovely chance to have a meaningless roll, just to test
I
out
was gonna say,
the.
Matt, as like a strength and fellowship thing, can we say that like we've gotten to know just what the hobbits like hunger is like,
What
and
their
that maybe if I've
grumbling
got up
noises are
early,
like.
I've picked up some bread or something that I can just like at least there's like a little nibble.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah,
Zoom on.
sure, absolutely. That works just fine for me. But I think that won't satisfy the appetites of the hobbit. So while you're gnawing on a bit of bread, Otho, why don't you give me? And I'm going to ask here for a scan roll. I think. So the way this works for anyone who's interested, when you roll dice or most rolls in One Ring, you get a feat die, which is a d12, and then a number of d6s, which should match your skill. You have a target number, which is set by your own stats, it can be affected by modifiers, but mostly it's not. So you are rolling for scan, Otho, against your wits target number. What is that?
14.
14. So what Sam is going to do is and how many do you have in scan? Sorry,
none. So this is quite unlikely. I need to
So
roll again.
just the feat die. Just the feat die. Yeah. So if you roll that.
I rolled a 9, which is nothing. So
nothing. So there we go. The feat die has like a 1 to 10 on it, and then 11. Instead of 11, there's a Sauron symbol, which is bad for the players, good for adversaries, and Gandalf replaces the 12, which is good for them and bad for adversaries. So that's basically what you need to know, and they need to equal that target number. But yeah, you don't see any food sort of nestled around the place. So you're just going to have to do with that hunk of bread that Ingrid has passed.
Split the hunk of bread with Winky, munch it down quickly, and my belly is still rumbling.
Absolutely. The ranger, after he stoked the fire, sits back down and looks across at you and says, My name is Torrodan. The way he says Torrodan itself, he rolls the R's in an odd way that you are not at all familiar with. But it occurs to you that this odd accent is exactly the same way that Amdir spoke. Thank you for your aid to Amdir. My kindred and I were driven from the bounds of the Shire by riders of Mordor. They pursued us eastward and slew many of us. It was my goal to join Amdir, but I have heard rumor of his fate in Archet. They say he was wounded and led off by evil men, the ones who lent the Blackwolds aid. There are few left now with power over such wounds, and those that I know of dwell some distance from here. We must find Amdir, and quickly, if we are to save him. You owe me and my kind nothing, but if Amdir was a friend to you, would you be a friend to him and me?
I think we still owe him our lives, really. He saved us from that prison in the first place. Don't know how we would have got out otherwise. Yeah? I'd say yeah.
We do owe him, you're right.
As he was saying this, I was sort of looking into the corner of the room, kind of kicking my feet a bit, and yes, you are right. We
I
do
might just
owe-
turn to her and I guess I don't know if there's like recent news, but like it's just more of a general like these dark things, they influence the world. If we can help stop that, more bad things won't happen. Like we've got to create the safest world. Think of what happened to us. We've got to stop things like that happening again.
Ingrid, when you reach my age, perhaps you will appreciate that there are things that are more important than the world. But I do owe. I should join. I should assist.
What are you talking about?
Well, my boy, how can I do anything but seek him out? But
Have you got something new to find out about him, though?
yeah, we heard somebody had seen him. I will have to pursue him, but perhaps both aims can be accomplished at once.
If
Toradan,
there's news of both today, that perhaps there is a connection, but in any case, we've been thinking of the number of people we've saved. I think Toradan, do we have word of Amdir? Do we know when to move?
that is what I am here to find out. I don't know whether what has become of your boy, perhaps it is tied in with this, and maybe that is providence, and maybe it is fate. Either way, he reaches up and scratches. You can see like he has the same sort of gaunt, slightly gaunt, muscly look as Amdir, but whereas Amdir was clean shaven, Toradan has like a lightly clipped mustache and beard that he sort of tussles at. I believe Amdir is likely being held by the Black Wolves somewhere in the Chetwood. We must find a way to enter their lair and free him. But first, we must find them. I am near certain that I was seen moving about town by one of their spies when I arrived, and I do not wish to risk our undertaking by showing my face unless necessary. We need allies. Speak with Constable Underhill. I have had dealings with him in the past, and he has proven himself of more courage than most constables of Breland. He may be able to provide guidance. And once you have learned more and believe you have a plan to find them, return to me, so I may join you and add my blade to yours. I would advise you hurry, before it is too late. I wish I could step out, but I do not trust not to be seen and warning to be given. These people, they will know who Rangers are, and they will fear us.
You know there are Blackwall spies in Coombe?
Suspicious individuals. They saw me and immediately left when I entered the town square last night. We cannot run the risk. You, though. No one here knows you're the heroes of Archie yet other than Lisbeth, and I have asked her to try to still her tongue.
Matt, were there other people downstairs when she...
There were, but they were drinking and not particularly paying attention.
Hopefully.
At like 8 a.m. in the morning or whatever time it is, they're probably
exactly.
well past it. All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll kind of give the four of us a look around and just say, well, I suppose no one would really mistake us for an intimidating bunch.
Speak for yourself.
I've seen the way Winky's been working that sword recently. She's Quite
Exactly.
intimidating now. Well, how we need to speak to the constabulary. I suppose we can ask. Where is Underhill? You came in with him.
He should be not far from the Comb and Wattle. Ask around. I'm sure someone will point you his way. Everyone knows Underhill.
And if we help you with this, I want your word that you'll help me find my son.
If in the course of this, in the course of the rescue of Amdir, we find out more about your son, once Amdir is made safe, I swear I will help you seek him.
All right, that's good enough for me. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll head on out. I guess we'll try and just catch Lisbeth maybe on the way out, and I know we'll keep it quiet about him upstairs. If word hasn't yet spread about the return of Underhill and confirmation of our story, I suppose the quiet we can keep it for a little while. And do you know which way Underhill went, or where he's likely to be?
Oh, Constable Underhill. Oh, he'll probably be outside. Just look to the right when you go out there. He likes to stand and look over the marketplace and make sure everything looks all right. He's a little bit of a stickler for his duty, if you mind what I mean.
Sounds like a good man.
She seems to disagree somewhat with what you just said, but you're not sure how. I take it are we stepping outside?
Yeah, grabbing all like helmet and shield and axe.
All your gear.
What I just heard.
Yeah.
And also any food that is easily swipeable.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, while everyone's grabbing their gear, Winky's just going to go and just like pack a few things into a little bag or like a mess tin.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Sausages.
I have a great image of like every time we've had a meal as hobbits in this inn, we've been like keeping bits of the meal just like in the rooms. So just
sure. Well, and you are being, you are paying for your stay there, and you are being given food for it. So there is let's say there's a little breakfast platter on like the bar that Elizabeth kind of waves and then looks back 30 seconds and it's all gone because of hobbits.
Can we ask Lisbeth for like essentially like a little lunch pack to take out or like to come back for once we've returned for heading out on the journey as well?
She went. Exactly. This breakfast platter is quite big.
Got to get a second breakfast.
Yeah, I am resolutely avoiding the term, which even now in private chat people are asking me to say. But it is a breakfast platter, and it is available for people to take things from.
All we can eat.
Yeah, which for the purposes of the hobbits will be as much of it as possible, I suspect. But there we go. But yeah, packs full of food, and in the case of the hobbits, probably hands and mouths full of food as well. You step out into a bright summer's day, albeit with a quite a pleasant breeze that is drifting down through the village. Kind of the marketplace is bustling already. People are going about their business, waving to each other, giving each other morning greetings. And again, there's a sense of like pastoral calm that you yourselves are perhaps not feeling, given the events of a week ago.
I look to the right, over by the markets, see if I can see any figures or anything like that.
And you know what? I'm not going to make you roll for it because there is like a. Let's actually talk about the like the layout of this center again, just a little bit. Why does that say remove when it's not? There we go. That's weird. So if we can see, so this is the Comb and Wattle here. This is like another building next to it, which is sort of the limited kind of town hall of Comb. You can see the whole thing is like raised up partly on this wooden platform here. Beneath this platform, you can't quite see here, but there are stables where people, have their horses and so on and so forth. But stood on this sort of stone mount here in front of this building is an individual who you quickly recognize as probably being Constable Underhill, who looks like this. dressed in a Breland constabulary uniform, and with a very severe bowl haircut. As you see him and presumably walk towards him, he strides up to you in a very kind of precise manner and kind of rolls upon like the balls of his feet, which Herb takes him all the way up to your belly button, and says, "Tardan sent you, did he? It's good to have the heroes of Archit on our side." He says that in quite a low voice.
Aye, he did. We were told that you might know a way to find perhaps where our friend's friend has been taken.
Yes. Well, I've been having a think about that ever since last night. There's still a Blackwold agent in town, you see. Or at least I think so. And they're trying to rebuild the band from among the local ruffians and bullies. You and the others in Archer cut quite a few of them down from the looks of it. We need proof, though. A letter or parchment would do if it came from the agent, and perhaps that can lead them to us. Many of the brigands, they hole up on the edge of the Chetwood. If you follow that road east, you'll arrive at a guardhouse. Constable Wren is there. She'll point your way forward. And from there, head further northeast and look for the brigands' watchfires scattered through the wood. Search their packs for signs of their summons. Let me know right away if you find anything. We need to know what they're up to.
Will you stay around here, or is there a place we can find you?
I will hold down the fort here. If they see constables on the edge of the wood, it'll spook them. Maybe even more so than if they saw Taradan in there.
Right. Okay. And you said that Wren might be there, Constable Wren.
Yes, Constable Wren should be at the guardhouse on the edge of town. At least she is if she's sticking to her rota, which I very much hope she is.
You said that there might be an agent, just the one. There might be getting some of the other brigands. Do you have an idea of the numbers that might be there?
I don't rightly know. I hope it's only one. I hope more than one hasn't snuck under my nose.
Well, thank you muchly for your help.
Oh, that's all right. Oh! I almost forgot. I have a notion you might need an extra pair of disreputable hands for rougher work. I have just the brawny fellow in mind, and he owes me a favour. Come, follow me. He walks down. Do you remember the stables I mentioned that are kind of almost underneath the comb and wattle? He walks down to where they are, walks past the woman tending them, big kind of piles of hay and several sort of bored-looking horses, and walks to a sort of, what would we call them? Like little... how are stables separated off?
Stalls, like the barrier.
Stalls, yes, wonderful. Stall about halfway down, and as he does so, for the first time, he sort of raises his voice and says, Leeknir, the sun is up and your debt is due. Rise and shine. Time to put misdeeds behind you. Leeknir, you're woken from probably quite a nice dream to hay, the smell of horse dung, and the piping of a certain insistent hobbit. Oh, also, your mic seems to be 10,000 miles away from you.
Go away, Underhill. It can't even be noon yet.
It certainly is not, Leeknir, but I have work for you. Come on, you owe me this. He starts kind of nudging the hay that you're in with his foot.
I'll gather myself and wipe sleep from my eyes.
Would you like to describe Leeknir for us?
So, Leeknir is like a long-haired, bearded, blonde barding, and easily identifiable as such. He has the accoutrements of a fine barding life. The top of his cloak is the original Dalish fine material, but it's been patched over many years with local rougher fare. Lots of his kind of original fine clothing have either been repaired shoddily or been replaced with lesser quality gear. He doesn't have his Dalish longbow nor a Dalish sword, but he does appear to be wearing at least a fine chainmail shirt of dwarven make, possibly from the Lonely Mountain.
Do I would I have any sense of what family he might have come from, or
I think
social class and that kind of thing?
Leekler left Dale probably when you were still very young, and so you couldn't place him probably, but you place him as a barding.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a long way from home and a long time from home,
and quite a few
Yeah.
patches and lack of baths enough to not really be able to be recognised as from a particular class or family.
Yeah.
How suspicious and much like a ruffian does he look like? Am I
Looks
like,
pretty ruffian?
He looks quite like a ruffian.
You wake him up in the stables,
And he's been described explicitly as a criminal.
yeah, it's true.
I might turn to Underhill and just say,
Yeah, I'm
"Are you
also
sure
looking at
this
Underhill.
isn't the one?"
Look, you need all the help you can get. He'll be absolutely fine. I trust him. He has given his word to me that some of his previous hobbies, shall we call them, are behind him, and now he wishes to do good work and make reparations for them. Isn't that right, Leekner?
I'm not entirely sure those are the words I used, but what's the word?
No, they were rougher words. These individuals have given great aid to the village of Archer, north of here. They are now looking to thwart the Blackwolds. And I know you are more than familiar with them. I want you to go along with them, protect them, provide another blade for them if necessary.
How many of them can I see from the door of the store, like the opening of the store?
You could probably see all of them. It's like there is like the stores are just like open, if you get what I mean, just separated by barriers and like little wooden columns. So you could definitely probably see all of them.
Another blade? Is there even one blade among them?
Now, none of that.
Young man, I might not look like much, but I can take you in a fight. But I fought along in my time in the military. I fought along people who needed second chances, shall I say? So I would be happy for you to join us. I, for one, anyway. These others you've got to convince.
From the sounds of it, that work in Archer was hard. So if there's more to be done for it, then I'm happy to help.
The work we have to do is important. You must be committed.
Yes, important work.
Look,
I just kind of want to get a bit of a read on him. Like, does he seem vague? Like, how sincere at all? Like,
I'm
right
almost
now,
more trying to
he
read
seems
Underhill.
very earnest, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like he's just fooled Underhill.
Not super earnest, but equally, yeah. He hasn't started the discussion with the discussion of pay, which I suppose puts him somewhere in the middle of earnestness.
He also is like he's wearing his lack of earnestness on his sleeve, which is a lot better than like someone who's like, oh yeah, I'll really help you, but actually is like desperately trying to deceive you.
I love
just-
the edit that Herb
I
has
guess
turned
it's like
around and just said that to us.
Yeah.
It's like the reliability thing. Like, I don't think it's going to stab us in the back, but is he just going to go, oh, fuck this later? You know?
He might.
There's only one way to find out.
He dusts himself off and gathers his few things. But when he draws himself up to his full height, he at least looks competent.
Yeah, he certainly looks larger and stronger and more intimidating than any of you.
About that thing I was saying about being able to take you in a fight.
I have no doubt
in
of
jest.
Let's not do that via dice because it's I did when reviewing the character sheets. I did realize, Pierre, that you are the champion of the group, the champion calling the warrior one, and that you are arguably the worst fighter in the entire group. In that, with your fanciest weapon, you literally can't hit unless you crit.
Yep.
So yeah.
I do agree with Holly's wave here. When you rolled, I think every single attempt failed last story, didn't it?
I got one hit.
You got one.
So
There we go. There we go.
If it involves killing Blackwolds, then I'm more than happy to take part.
And we've killed a few already, so we have had a chance to experience it. Don't worry, we know what we're doing.
That is impressive.
Well, I'm not sure we're strictly on a mission to kill people at the moment. We're looking for information, but the Black Worlds are
Kill,
certainly our enemy.
Maim, rough up, all of them are things I'm happy to take part in.
If we need to, well, I suppose we ought to get you up to speed then. We need evidence of the Black Worlds and their influence on this person. From the way you described it, Underhill, I think we maybe get the opportunity to get in there, get out. Potentially no roughing up needed. We certainly wouldn't want to cause a distraction or more danger. That our end goal is not just killing these Black Wolves, but there's a greater purpose.
Underhill nods and says, well, however you see fit to manage it. But as I say, they have camps on the edge of the Chetwood. I'm sure Leeknir here can maybe even lead you to one of them. Either way, Constable Wren is on the way and can point you forwards. And with that, it's probably best we're not seen talking too much. So I shall bid you good luck and good day.
indeed, quite
Should
enough
we-
waffling.
How about a hunting party and a hunt in the Chetwood Forest? And perhaps, Winky, you could look for some of your plants and things.
Indeed.
You're saying like loudly to people nearby. Yeah.
Yes.
Ringy takes this completely seriously, grabs a journal out and goes, yes, I've been meaning to get a sample. Thank you very much. And is going, like, immediately is walking off.
I was just going to say as well, while we're having the last bit of the conversation, Otho just has a quick glance around to see if anyone seems to be watching us. Presumably they're not paying attention, but...
You can make another scan roll if you want.
Sure, this thing that I have no skills in, but I'm doing anyway. I should probably level that up next time. At 9 again, so nope.
No, you can't tell.
I shall run back and let Lisbeth know that we'll have rabbits for stew this evening. Big. And yes, we'll go loudly declare that we're hunting for rabbits or something.
Sure. So I take it the five of you are taking the east road out of Combe. It doesn't take you long before you're sort of beyond the edges of the settlement itself. But ahead of you is a fairly kind of well-cultivated landscape still. You can see on the top of a rise nearby, there is another building kind of under construction. There are lanterns along the road here. Presumably this road out to the Chetwood is fairly well traveled even in the evening, or at least has been at some point. And on the top of the rise that marks kind of the edge of Combe, you can see that there is I can't remember exactly how Underhill referred to it. Got a guard post is a very grand name for what is there, because this is what you can see. Basically a little shelter that someone might kind of lurk in, that has more of a little of the kind of outdoor toilet about it. There are a couple of there's what appears to be a kind of junior guard and another constable stood there as you make your way up the hill in the sunshine. I'm assuming we're not deviating from this and are just kind of moving.
Do I recognise them as Constable Wren?
Yeah, it's definitely Constable Wren. You've had more than one run-in with Constable Wren.
Then along the way, I might have been pointing out a few of the local features to the group, and then say, that's Constable Wren up on the hill if you want to speak to him.
Oh, I.
Her, but there we go.
Her, sorry.
Yeah.
And indeed, Constable Wren is here. She kind of watches as the group of you approaches, and kind of looks at you with some puzzlement, and says, "Leeknir, not here to cause me trouble, are you?" "No, that wouldn't be you." "Are you folks she kind of looks across at your weapons and says, "Going hunting?"
We were we were wondering if you might help us, give us some directions. We're apart from Leitner here, we're all fairly new to this part of the world. So
All right. Well, there's nothing else to do this morning, so I might as well. She's sort of like patting like at her breeches, sort of tightening a belt, and they seem to be a bit sort of slapdash, as if she's pulled them on in a hurry this morning. Just carry on taking the road to the east. First, you'll get to the lumber camp, then you'll get to the Chetwood. But take care in there. There's Blackwolds about. Not to mention
Yes, we've heard. We've
wolves.
heard you could tell us where to avoid, where the black walls have last been seen. Underhill told us to speak with you. He said you would know exactly what we needed to know.
Of course he did. Stick to the south of the path once you get into the Chetwoods. The Blackwolds, they're mostly to the north and the east. And they won't be far from the edge of the wood either, so just look, as long as you go past them and you're armed and you don't look like you have any riches on you, they'll probably leave you alone anyway. Just yell a few insults in your direction, but just stay to the south. Go southeast. That should be fine.
Aye. And there was another issue. I was told that maybe you knew the whereabouts of a boy called Rem.
Sent looking for Rem Rushlight, have you?
Well, you see, I'm his father. My name's Herb Rushlight, and I just want to bring him home. What news have you of my boy?
Well, she looks a little bit uncomfortable. I've heard something about the boy, but I can't say his mother is going to like it. He's joined up with the Blackwolds. He hadn't been in Combe for long when they took him either. He tried finding work around town, but he didn't have the stamina for hard labor. If you can talk to him, you might convince him to give up his new line of work, but I doubt it, not with the recruits they've been getting recently. I wager you'll find him northeast of the path in the Chetwood. Who knows where? And if you go deep enough, well, those weapons might not keep you safe. So consider yourself warned.
I thought there weren't so many Blackwolds around these days. Is the wood still quite full of them?
There's less than there were a week ago. From what I heard, rumours of what happened up in Archit, maybe because of that. There's still a plenty, though.
Well, I suppose we best be very careful. Got our guide here, pointing at Ligner.
I will make sure we're all right. Thank you, Constable Ben.
Thank you, Leekner. I much prefer it when you're being this polite.
On business today.
Of course you are. She sort of takes a seat in that little shelter and waves you on.
Once we're a little way away, I will at least attempt to pat Herb on the back, although I might not be able to reach quite high enough to get properly to be like, sorry, Herb, that's not good news.
Yeah. Well, I had heard that maybe he was off with the Blackwolds, but I didn't want to believe it. But now this all but confirms it. He's a good boy. He wouldn't.
If he's your son, I'm sure he's good at heart. We don't know what's happened. He might have been put in a very difficult position, and if we can show him that he can get out safely, I'm sure he'll come with us. We'll find him.
Aye.
It is a difficult thing to lose track of a son, but just joining the Blackwolds doesn't mean that you'll be there forever. Trust me.
looks at Leagnir even more suspiciously.
Sorry,
Suspiciously and slightly hopefully, torn completely between the two.
Sorry, I just poured some water into my lungs. But I'm fine.
That's not
now.
where the water goes, Matt.
It's not.
What no,
it's
if
not
your lungs are a
ideal.
bit dry, you know, sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's not long from your walk from the edge of Combe until you see the Chetwood. A mass gathering of trees kind of stretching across your view. The edges of it, at least, don't seem like a particularly dense forest. And it is, in fact, quite pleasant given the kind of day it is. And as you cross over another rise, you think if you looked back, you could probably see, or maybe if the land was flatter, you'd probably even still be able to see Constable Wren's guard post and Combe from here. It's the edge of the Chetwood really is not that far away from Combe itself. And ahead of you, you see a river, quite a placid one, stretching north to south across a little valley. It has a little stone bridge over it, and across that, just in front of what you make out as the edge of the Chetwood, is a lumber camp with a number of rudimentary buildings and people going about their business. From here, you can hear kind of like, people chopping and sawing and going about their work. The path seems to lead right through that lumber camp and up to the edge of the Chetwood.
This sounds like the way then, past the lumber camp, right?
Aye, that's what I said.
Matt, is there anyone that I know in this lumber camp who might have exclamation mark above their head for a side quest?
There are a number of people who might have side quests had the lore master not excised most of the side quests in order to keep this at good one-shot length. But no, the people I got, you know a couple of them here, I believe, and this is just me drawing the name from memory now. I believe the head of the lumber camp is a man called Mason Thorne. I think, I could be wrong if there's any LOTRO people out there who can correct me. But and they kind of recognize you, and a couple of them even nod to you. Maybe they're kind of drinking buddies on occasion. But no, everything seems to be just going about as normal. In fact, more than usual. You see a large amount of wood piled up on one side with a wagon that's kind of a more long distance wagon than you might imagine. Usually they just cart the stuff in a small cart back to Combe, but this long distance wagon means it might be going to Bree or maybe Archet. You're not sure if they have a need for a lot of lumber right now, Leagnir, but the others are probably aware of that.
I guess I will just look to Leagnir and go, is this a place to stop and ask if anything strange been going on, or shall we just head on?
Welcome to, if you like. They've been fairly busy the last few days, my understanding. It's a good place to stop as any.
Matt, how close is this to? I know this is kind of on the edge of the Chetwood, but from the descriptions given, like how far in would we expect to see black wolves, and essentially trying to gauge whether it's worth stopping and asking if there's been any trouble recently to get a narrow in a bit.
You know what? It may certainly be worthwhile. I believe people said almost to the very edge of the Chetwood is where the Blackwolves camp now. So it's certainly possible that people here might have seen them.
We could ask if they've
might
seen
know them, or might be
Mr. Rushlight's son.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just say, I mean, I'm guessing that massive wall around Archet that was constructed by Blackwolves was made out of this kind of wood.
Yeah, or everything wooden nearby has come from the Chetwood.
From the Chetwood.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee it came from this particular lumber mill. Or...
No, not particularly, no. I mean, it's probably people who cut stuff in Archet. It's just, this is obviously a bigger camp.
Yeah.
Herb was going to suddenly suggest that they're actually all Blackwolves or something.
I mean, it could also be that like Blackwolves are intercepting or
yeah, they're brigands. This is what they do. I mean, I will stop and ask if there's been any Blackwold trouble, and again, loudly proclaim we're off hunting and we want to avoid them. What's the chat?
Who are you kind of getting to talk to this about? Are you maybe asking Lignir? It is indeed Mason Thorne. Good job, Matt. And he is stood nearby if anyone wanted to.
Yeah, I can point you in his direction.
Yeah, I would ask Lignir who's the person to speak to, and yeah.
Lignir points to an older man with kind of bright white hair who's still quite sprightly and is like walking around, sort of essentially telling people to get on with their work, in quite a slightly grating manner, but nevertheless seems quite friendly. And as you approach him, he turns and says, "Oh, are you going into the Chetwood?"
Yes, we were going to go off hunting, but we've heard there's been more Blackworld activity, and was hoping you could let us know if there's been any news recently, or where to avoid.
Well, we keep
been
them
in
away from here. But every time we go out and take some lumber, there's a good couple of strong men we send along just to protect my workers. Just stay clear of north of the road. They camp all there.
How far? How far out?
If you walk a good only 5 or 10 minutes or so north of the road, you'll start to hit them. They're not far away. They're probably listening. Ruffians! That wasn't intended to be quite so Matt Perry.
You don't happen to know Constable Underhill, do you?
Of course I know Underhill.
I was just the terminology you use seemed familiar.
Well, if he calls them ruffians, he's very correct, is what I'd say. If you don't mind, there's a lot of work needs doing. There's this order from Archith. I don't know why they need all this bloody wood.
Master Thorne, this man here, he's traveling. His son, I think, has been in these parts recently. I don't know if you'd have seen a young man who looks a bit like him. Maybe even around the Blackwolds.
Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to these things.
Right, of course, so you're very busy.
Very busy.
Archie would.
You could earn some coin, Lignir, if you wanted to.
Oh, certainly. No, I'll be back once I've dealt with this.
Yeah, put those muscles to good practical use.
Certainly. But for now...
Mason Thorne wanders off, having been mostly unhelpful.
Well, at least everybody's saying the same thing about where they are.
Good.
And I hope any actual LOTRO veterans here, I hope you appreciate that genuinely quite good Mason Thorne impression. For a character who's got like about 2 barks recorded. But I always remember because he has a kind of like, have you seen my book? Sort of voice that's very annoying. Anyway, moving on. I take it we're leaving the lumber camp and going into the Chetwood.
Yeah, I suppose. Once we're a little out, I'll kind of just ask the group generally. So what are we going to do? Just wander into the woods and hope to come across them?
Well,
what's the plan?
I had an idea. It sounds like they are just going to attack anyone who looks like they're carrying valuables and isn't particularly well guarded. If we're after going through their bags, it's probably best if they're not there. I could provide some sort of distraction.
Not a bad idea as long as, well, you're not completely alone.
Aye, and I suppose there should be some indication of where their camps are by the smoke. Seems like they're not as experienced as the Rangers in terms of remaining hidden.
Actually, yeah, Matt, at that point, can I just look into the Chetwood and just see if I can see any smoke coming through the trees?
I'd say probably not, because the trees are quite tall. Kind of, there's a mass of them in front of you. You didn't particularly see anything when you were a bit higher up on the rise, but it's possible that if the camp's small enough, then you wouldn't particularly see the smoke.
What about more of a like tracking kind of perspective? Like
Any signs of
any
activity?
signs? Yeah.
Sorry, a what kind of perspective?
Like more of a tracking kind of perspective, like
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, you
of things off to the north bit.
Yeah, you could certainly make some rolls for that once you've gone into the wood. Yeah.
I can't quite like Winky's idea. Let them come to us. They'll be looking, right?
I mean, both of them are not. I mean, one is a plan for finding them, and the other is the plan for what to do when you do find them, right? So
Yeah,
they're not mutually exclusive.
So who here can keep themselves hidden if we're gonna make sure that they don't find us or don't spot us? I'm all right.
Are you suggesting an ambush, or are you suggesting a distraction? Sorry.
I think both would be possible. It sounds like they will leave their camp only to harass people that they think are worth it, which I think would probably be me. From the outward, probably incorrect view that I would be a weak and vulnerable target with some valuables on my person.
Exactly. So we ambush them.
And then either do we want to send someone to go root through their bags while they come close, or do we want to try and
is the idea
within there?
Is the idea to lure them and then attack them, or the idea to lure them away, and while they're away, check the camp?
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking about, the ambush or distraction thing. Yeah. I mean,
I'm happy to. I could look after Winky, make sure that Winky's not being harmed, and then others could go to the camp. We can shout if they are insistent on starting a fight. But
I could sneak into the camp, although I'm not feeling particularly inclined to leave you, Winky, in the forest.
I can head into the camp, and I mean, if there's anyone left behind, I took reasonably good care of myself, but hopefully before, but hopefully it won't come to that. I'm more worried about us splitting and leaving you a little more vulnerable, Winky.
I'll be fine. I've been practicing. You've seen.
Winky is actually quite good at stealth, right? So.
Exactly. My theory is that I can just disappear off into the forest if required.
Sure. But we have to find the damn Blackwolves first, right?
Yep.
So let's.
Yeah, I think if we start getting into the forest, I will start trying to have a bit of I don't know if it's like hunting or.
It's okay. Let's get into the forest before we start making the rolls for what happens in the forest.
Yeah.
So I take it we're walking past the bounds of the lumber mill and going into the Chetwood. The more genial sounds of the river and the lumber work behind you is replaced by an overwhelming sort of the rushing noise of leaves and branches against each other, odd little animal noises in the distance, and just despite the bright day and the sunlight that is pouring down plentifully between the gaps in the trees, just an odd sense of foreboding that all of you get as you step within the Chetwood. Before long, you start to see ahead of you just sort of scraps of stone and remains of walls as ruins of long past sprout up occasionally along the road. And once you deem yourself, again, 5 to 10 minutes inside the bounds of the forest, it seems the kind of time where you might start looking at those tracks that Ingrid mentioned. It would indeed be a hunting roll. I'm assuming that Ingrid is making it, but is there also any of you who are particularly good at hunting who might want to make that roll as well? Leeknir.
I'm happy to either lend assistance or make the roll.
Yeah, I've got a specialism in hunting, so.
Well, it's up to you how you want to do it. If you are supporting, remember that costs you a hope. But at the same time, it seems weird that the three of you would wander off individually and do it apart.
Yeah.
So it's up to you how you want to do it.
I'm happy to spend a point of hope to support.
Support Ingrith. And only one
Yeah.
person can do that at a time. So
Okay. So I've got my the D12 and I've got 2 points. That's 2 sixes, 2 D6s to roll as well.
and
for hunting, right?
Leapnir is supporting for a hope, which gives you another die.
So I get an extra dice. Okay, so it's yeah. Sorry, an extra die that's an extra D6 or an extra D12. Sorry, remind me.
D6. Yeah, you only ever get one
D6,
D12. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to, is hunting a favored skill for you?
No.
Never mind.
Sorry, there's been a while. So I'm adding up the number. I haven't got any funnies on the D12. That's just a 7 on the D12. I've got 1 6 and then a 3 and a 2. Which is
And your
10, 18,
your target number will be your strength target number for this.
which is 15. So I beat 15. And that's 1 6 on the success die.
Yeah, and that's 1 6, which means it's a very good success. So what happens is you step off the north part of the road. I mean, it's not a road at this point, as you can see, it's a path through the forest. And almost immediately you start to see signs of sort of, discarded human things of human make, like a knife strap that seems to have come away from a belt. You see sort of disturbed sort of underbrush and where big boots have been tramping through this forest, and they lead off, as you might expect, to the northeast, the direction in which you were told the Blackwolves camp. And as you look like directly above, like through the trees, you see that some distance off, like maybe a kilometer or so to the northeast, you can see what appears to be the glowing redness of a fire through the trees, like a campfire.
I'll point out what I've seen and suggest if we do want to do if we want to do distraction, I suppose I ought to sneak away separately before you make a bit of a noise. Herb, do you want to be here to look for your boy or at the camp?
I would appreciate it if I could follow you. After all, I mean, he looks a bit like me, obviously, but I don't know. If he saw me, I'd hope he'd stay his blade.
So the people who weren't helping with hunting, I would like a little roll at this point. I know you wanted to. Do you think you would have been along, but just not providing an extra die, or would you have been back with the hobbits on the path? It's up to you.
I think I would have probably helped with hunting.
Sure.
But even though I didn't mechanically help with hunting.
In that case, Otho and Winky, can you both give me, please? And this is probably not a strong roll for you. Can you both give me awareness rolls, please? That is a strength target number, which I know won't be your strong suits, but if you just give me a roll and see if anything turns up.
It is my thingy, though, my X.
Oh, what that means is it's favored, which means that if you spend a point of hope to boost the roll, you gain 2 dice instead of 1.
Okay. Ooh, might do my first hope spend then.
So I did get 1 6, which means that it's successful-ish. But
only if you actually succeed.
Yeah, so I like barely clinched the target number. I got an 18, so which is my target number.
Oh, then,
then you have got a very good success.
Oh, okay. Well, that information I won't bother. I won't bother spending money.
Yeah,
kind of cheeky.
In future, can we not? Can we roll together so we don't? Did you get what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of meant effective what I want to do. Oh, I got a Gandalf and like 20 something, so that's an insane success with a 6.
Sure. Either way, so both of you, as you're stood there on the road, probably nibbling on a sausage from the comb and wattle, both of you become aware, very much the same time, of rustling in a bush near the edge of the path, and as you kind of glance over, probably would you say a little bit on your guard, for for the circumstances. You see an older hobbit's face kind of like pushing out from between two bushes and going, oh.
I would like to exchange a look with Winky and then just kind of step back to kind of make sure the hobbit is watching the group of probably mainly humans and kind of just move around the side of the bush if I can do. I'm happy for Winky to follow me.
Sure. At the moment it's just you and Winky on the path. The others are
okay.
Nearby.
Is the older hobbit watching us or the others?
Watching you by the look of it.
Okay, in that case, I guess I'll just walk up to him.
Winky will walk up as well and say, "Good, good sir. Are you?"
Yeah, you walk up to where he's like, and he kind of, well, finally, someone respectable. I was beginning to think no one out here in the woods had any manners.
Manners?
Well, yes, those awful Blackwolds.
Oh, well, they
but you're
certainly have
clearly
no
not
manners.
Blackwolds. Good, upstanding hobbits and with manners too.
Yes?
Quite right. Why are you hiding in a bush?
Well, I simply couldn't stand by any longer while the Blackwolds have their way in the Chetwood. I marched right in and told them just what I think of their sort.
And how did that go?
Well, they laughed me right out of their camp. Go back to Hobbiton, little boy, they said to me. I've never been spoken to like this. Never.
And from your accent, you're very clearly not even from Hobbiton, so it's...
Well, they should have known that, quite rightly. My name is
Precisely.
Filbert Burrows. He holds out his hand.
I'll shake it, but like give Otho a bit of a side eye. I was like, what the
Yeah,
hell is this
Otho's
person
just
doing?
kind of a bit stunned and not really saying anything for a moment.
One ruffian in the camp just to the north of here, if you can believe it, he took my handkerchief. Cole Sickleleaf is his name. I know him. He used to be a good boy.
Your handkerchief. That's
My handkerchief. Whipped it out of my hand and ran off whooping.
the ruffian, the absolute scoundrel, stealing a handkerchief.
Quite right. So I am here, lurking, hoping to get the drop on him and get it back.
Which I am sure will go splendidly.
At this point, I think the three men can probably... when I say men in this, by the way, for anyone watching, I'm using it in the term Tolkien used for it. Humans are men. I know it's sexist, but I guess I'm sexist.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, I'll kind of... We're probably very loud. When men folk known for being loud when they're clomping back on the way back, so you probably hear us before you see us.
I suppose I will ask this hobbit. So you've seen the inside of the camp then?
Sorry, I was just distracted by a rules correction from
Yeah,
Pierre.
no, you're all good. I just asked the hobbit. Yeah, so you've seen the inside of the camp then?
Inside of the camp is a strong term. It's just a campfire with a couple of no good layabouts around it.
Okay. How many no good layabouts did you see?
4 or 5, I don't know. But one of them, Cole Sickleleaf, he took my handkerchief.
Oh, your handkerchief.
As the taller individuals sort of emerge, he kind of jumps with a start and almost seems like he's going to run off, and then he realizes they're with you and sort of goes, "Oh, I see." Justin?
Was the name Cole Sickleleaf familiar to me?
Yeah.
Right. That does sound like something Cole would do.
Yeah, he's a little turd.
Just for that.
Or at least when you were
like
dealing with him, he was a little turd.
Like this made up. This is now essential quest-related business, even though it's ridiculous.
So we were going there anyway. Maybe we could get your handkerchief back.
That would be delightful.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Filbert. Filbert Burrows. He offers his hand.
I shake it.
You're you've been safe enough here in the Chetwood, then?
Well, I've only been here for a couple of hours, and mainly hiding in bushes.
Wise.
I kind of just want to look a little bit to the other guys. Like I'm just kind of thinking, like we talk about how secretive we need to be. We've just already announced this guy. We're going to the camp.
I will
think-
give you
Yeah,
a look like he's a hobbit. It's fine.
Yeah. Filbert, why don't you come with me, and we'll see if we can persuade them to give you a handkerchief back. I'm quite the wordsmith. I'm sure they'll give it right back.
I'll fall in behind you.
And I'm just gonna look to the rest of the group and just go,
I'm giving you a nod. He seems like a good distraction.
So we're going to distract, and then the rest are going to kind of circle around the back. And my plan is to stand back until the distraction has happened, and then I'll emerge out and be tell them to bugger off or keep them distracted, whatever.
Okay.
Kind of like the appealing hobbits. They're the bait, and then I'll be, in the background.
The backup.
Sure. So you make progress. Oh, I don't know why I didn't sooner. I do have a picture of Filbert. Because of course he is a side quest in the game. So there he is, good old Filbert Burrows. So you make your way. Sorry,
I was gonna say, well, Herb and I maybe, if Herb's coming with me, we'll maybe split off and go try and sneak ahead a little bit so that we're
I
not
was
kind of
gonna
I was
spotted.
about to say, yeah, split off now so that they don't hear us all coming along.
That makes sense. I'm with you as well because stealth
Sure.
is one of my things.
Absolutely. You all split up into your little groups. So to make it clear, it's Winky, Filbert, and Leeknir, and then Otho, Ingrid, and Herb kind of trying to sneak in and get what you need to get while the others are while the Blackwolves are distracted. You make your way closer to this camp. It doesn't take you very long at all. There it is, if you could see it just on that rise, a couple of little lean-to tents and a good 4 Blackwolves lounging around it. Winky, I obviously want to know as much as you can tell me about exactly how you are providing a distraction.
Well, we need to get the handkerchief back. So obviously, I'm walking along the road shouting, "Ruffians, where are you? We require the handkerchief back that you stole so viciously from my companion here."
Filbert looks very alarmed at this tack being taken, but he's carrying on walking behind you, just kind of like, "Oh, am I? Oh dear, am I?" I'm not even sure you need to. I mean, you definitely don't need to roll to get attention for that. But let's have, the Blackwolves hear you very quickly. And they kind of stand up from around the campfire, like looking over, all wearing kind of like battered and torn Breland clothing, not very good looking clothing, and they do not look very well armed either. And they sort of peer over at you and start kind of jeering at you, and you hear one go, "Hey, it's that old little hobbit again, and he's got a friend." And generally speaking, they're all making noises that are some variety of and shouting really quite, hobbit-based insults at you.
Rude.
Yeah, they don't seem immediately inclined to actually come after you. So how about a persuade roll? Would that seem something?
I'm happy to do a persuade roll.
Something
It's favored,
decent?
so yeah.
Yeah. Well, in that case, let's look at if I've been getting favored rolls wrong. Roll typical source of favored rolls are favored. Yeah, I guess I didn't even consider that. So favored skills, as well as having the inspired thing with hope, seem to be that you also get to roll the feat die twice and take the highest result. From Pierre's looking up. It is on the cheat sheet, but for some reason it didn't actually pass from the cheat sheet into my brain.
I think maybe you're mixing up favoured and distinctive features, the effects of those two things. So I think it's distinctive features that give
I
spend hope.
am that give you the inspired state. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Either way, and I imagine your wits target number is probably quite low.
Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so yeah, favoured roll, and I've got 2 points in it. So roll.
Yeah, unless you want to spend hope, then.
No, I'm all good. Right. I got a Sauron eye.
Okay,
on my feet dice, but otherwise I got
yes.
So it's taking the
highest.
It says the best. So is that the highest, including the Sauron?
The Sauron is not a number. The Sauron is not a number.
Sauron's not a number. Okay, in which case it's 4. So I still don't make it, unfortunately, because I rolled pretty poorly on my d6s.
Okay. Well, in that case, the Black Walls are staying where they are, and just carrying on jeering at you. Linknir, you're presumably nearby this happening.
Yes.
And I'd say that Herb, Otho, and Ingrid, you're kind of. I'm not going to make a stealth roll. It's like it's a wood. You could, and Ingrid had a good sense of where it was. You're kind of circling around. You can see that they definitely you have their attention, but they're not moving.
Can I try, seeing this isn't working, to kind of step out and use ore to kind of call them out, especially
Kind
Cole,
of draw them away.
and just a string of insults and questioning their manhoods and their ability, over everything, just to kind of
it kind of enrage them.
Just enrage them.
Yeah,
and I've got
fierce
fierce as a. I'm going to spend hope, and I've got fierce as a distinctive feature, which
so
I
that
spend
works.
hope on.
I guess my only question would be, I suppose ore is a thing, but it's almost the reverse of what ore is intended for.
Yeah,
but I think it'll.
I'm happy to make a persuade instead.
No, you know what? I think ore. You're challenging them, right? So it's part of it. So go ahead and make an ore roll then. And if you're spending hope, you also get another 2. Yeah, fierce absolutely applies. You get another 2 dice on that as well. And is ore favored as well?
No.
Okay. Well, that's still a pretty.
But yeah, I think the argument I'll go down is stealing handkerchiefs from hobbits. Is this what the mighty Black Wands have come to? And I rolled. I succeed, but no Tengwars or anything.
Okay. But that is enough. Winky has already taunted them to into at least she's got their blood up, and now you're just providing.
We've taunted them a second time.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely. And you know what? You see Cole Sickleaf himself, that notorious character, stand up from by the campfire and go, "Oi, that's that barding traitor." Or you'd probably say Dalish traitor rather than barding. Go on, let's get him and the hobbits. And they just, they're charging down at where you are, and the hobbits as well. Now this is interesting because now Leipnir has gotten involved. At this point, are you carrying on with the hobbit plan of just running off and losing them in the woods and letting the others, or with Leipnir, are you going to run off, or are you going to try and? There are 4 of them, and engaging them yourself would, not be.
I'll take my lead from Winky.
Winky briefly goes, "Yeah, we could take them," and then just realizes, no, there's no chance. So just goes, "Run!" and then just dives headfirst into a book.
Sure, absolutely.
Can we see this going on?
Oh yeah. You've got a good view, a fairly good view. Like I say, the trees are quite sparse at this point, and because you got such a good idea of where it was, absolutely,
I mean.
I make some eye contact.
Just want to say, do you want to follow? Make sure they're all right.
They'll be fine.
I mean, I think of all of them, Leipnir's the one they're going to chase, so I'm not bothered.
Let's go and steal their stuff.
Does it look like everyone's left the camp, Matt?
Yeah, they've all left the camp.
Okay, dash down.
Yeah, we'll give it a second and then go. And I don't know if we need to, but as you reminded me before, I've got this burglary thing, so yeah, hopefully can go
Ooh,
with
yeah, you do.
pinch.
Well, yeah, let's deal with that before we deal with what's happening to the others fleeing through the woods with these black walls behind them.
Just getting slaughtered.
So yeah, it's going to be, and I'm happy for each of you to roll, take a separate pack and each roll, but it's going to be a scan roll again. But yeah,
How much stuff is there? How big are the packs? I'm trying to decide whether we want to stop and like rifle through things here, or whether we want to just take the packs and go and then deal with it back in town.
You certainly could do that, and you certainly could carry them. I suppose, and this is just, it's up to you whether your character would realize this. If you do that, they know that that's what you were doing, and they then could make perhaps assumptions if you find anything. Having said that, it would be easier, and it wouldn't be left to chance if you just could rifle through them at your leisure. So it's up to you what you want to do. Like, part of me would suggest making the rolls to see if you can, and then if you can't, that's the fallback. But like, obviously, it's up to your character.
My initial strategy would be rifling through.
Yeah, just
with a need for secrecy. Probably there is at least a slight factor of you don't want them to know that was what you were doing.
Yeah. I might spend a hope.
Anyway, before you do,
it was scan, right?
Yeah, before it's a scan roll, and before you do that, Otho, just remember that Ingrid, your burglary absolutely applies, and therefore you're going to get a re-roll of your feat die if needed, or you can roll twice and take the best, whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I guess it depends how big this camp is. Does it seem like?
Oh no, I've literally got it the opposite way around again. It's not that. It's that if you spend a hope, you will get an extra die on the roll. Oh my god, I have a blockage in my brain on this.
I will do that then. I will make use of my burglary stuff. So I get one extra d6.
Yeah. So if you spend a hope,
at cost of a hope.
If you spend a hope, you take 2 extra die on the roll.
Oh, 2. Sorry. I will do that.
I was going to ask about the search in the camp thing before I decide to spend hope. Does it seem big? Like we want to get a good search for everyone, or does it seem like we'll find one?
No, what I will tell you, one success will do the job.
Won't bother. I'll just do a normal roll then. Cool.
I mean, I definitely succeed, but I don't have any 6s or special stuff.
Sure.
I get a Sauron, so definitely fail.
Yeah. I've got 9. Oh yeah, I've got 19 overall against my target of 16. But yeah, no, that there's 8s and 5s and stuff, so nothing special.
Herb, you just kind of go through a pack, and all you find is bits of food, bits of clothing. Otho, you pick up a pack and immediately spill most of the contents out into the campfire, which doesn't help at all. Ingrid, you pick up what seems to be the largest and perhaps most robust pack of the group. Maybe it's the leader of this little band, and rifling through, you find some folded up cloaks. You find again some bits of food, a pair of spare shoes, and then you also find a note, which feel free to read out.
The tyranny of inaction needs silence you no longer. Cast aside the things that make you. Bring 3 white shirts, 2 pair trousers, blue, and 200 copper burial money to Ellie Cutleaf and Combe. Do the clothes that are in the pack match some of that? Or is it like...
yeah, you know what? Yeah, they do, yeah.
I'm going to take the whole pack.
Okay.
You've already thrown some stuff in the fire. I feel like the ruse is up. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then are we dashing away trying to get? Are we going in the direction that the others went, or are we going back to the path and hoping they kind of make it back?
I think I would probably hedge my bets and go in the direction they were. Not trying to be like rushing up for a fight or anything, but just in case something goes wrong.
Sure.
I think I would be like, let's circle around, and then I see Otho heading straight for them, and I'm like, okay, let's go follow Otho.
I'm worried about Winky, okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of Winky and Leitnir, although we just met him, so kind of fuck that guy. But
cheers.
You both have to make a roll now to see if you can get away from the Black Walls. It can be either stealth or athletics. So I suspect Winky is going to roll stealth and Leitnir is going to roll athletics. I think probably. Obviously, I know athletics for you is favored Lickner. So if it's favored, don't forget that you can get a reroll of your feat die and let me know how you do.
I got a total of. I failed.
Okay.
But the reroll did save me from a failure with Sauron. So
Fair enough. How have we done on the winky side of
I
things?
very much make it. I got 20 with a reroll of my feat die.
Absolutely.
Against my target of 14, and I got 1/6. So
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, you got a 6.
yeah. So
Well,
10,
let me tell
yeah,
you. Yeah. So one of the things you can spend a 6 on is to also pass a success on to someone else attempting the same thing.
I was literally about to say, can I help Lickney?
Absolutely. So you know what, Lickner, as you're kind of just running as fast as you can, basically, but you can hear the black walls behind you. You can hear Cole Sickleaf kind of like, "Get him! He's not from round here!" Shouting through the woods. And then as you pass like a large tree, like a very low down hand kind of reaches out and kind
yanks you behind it.
Yanks you behind it, not with force, but you're moving fast. You know, you're witty enough that you can duck behind, and you hear the black walls kind of like vanishing past the tree that you're hiding there with you and Philbert Burrows, who's kind of like kind of really catching his breath. Yeah. I would note, by the way, no one said they were looking for the handkerchief.
Yeah, what's going on with this?
Well, Ingrid, did you get any extra successes or anything, or did you just pass the target number?
I just passed the target number, yeah.
I wouldn't have
I mean,
succeeded.
if it's in the pack, I've got the pack with me. I guess we can have another look again later.
You did. You know what? I'm going to roll. I in my head, I don't know if Cole Sickleaf is the leader or not, right? So I'm just going to roll to chance here.
If I found it, it's in the fire.
And if I found it, I did not care at all about.
Well, actually, yeah, that's the thing to do, right? To just randomize who's it's in, and I did. Yeah, okay. As you kind of leave the camp and rush, you know what? I'm not going to cause a fuss about it. I'd say you can catch up with Winky and Leekneer just fine. You can hear the black wolves kind of like roaming around nearby in the forest trying to find someone, but you manage to regroup with each other fairly quickly. And as you do so, Otho, you basically go, it just occurs to you that one of the things that fell out of the pack into the fire, I mean, you can't be sure it was a handkerchief, but it had very much had handkerchief vibes to it. You know what I mean? So you could do with that information what you want, but you all gather near this tree, and yeah,
it had PB embroidered on it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got what we needed for Underhill. They'll definitely know that somebody was at the camp, but I think there was going to be trouble with them anyway.
That's true.
We have someone from town who we think is the traitor then?
Well, there's a note. Underhill might make more sense of it. Sorry, Mr.
Burrows.
We can have a look. Sorry, yes. I'll check the pack properly when we get back to town to see if your handkerchief is in there, but it's probably a bit dangerous to be doing now.
That's all we could do, I suppose. That's absolutely fine. Shall we move along now? Yes, back to town, please.
Quite right. Let's get moving.
It's only a handkerchief.
I like a man with
Hopefully
priorities.
hopefully Townwood is not the direction that the Blackwolds are in, like between like us.
No, they're
and
roaming
yeah.
somewhere. They've lost now and are just kind of roaming around yelling at each other. I
guess just like, is that just sense check? Like the thing that we did read, like is that enough? I mean, the name on there, like that's the kind of thing we were expecting to get, right? Like because I think there's lots of camps. Like so we're probably okay to head back to town with what we have, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you were looking for the name of someone who's a potential Blackwell's agent in town, and that has a name on it and seems to be like a recruitment note. So yeah,
cool. As we're walking back, I just sort of say to her, like, don't suppose you recognise any of them? from what you saw?
No, it's not my boy. He looks a lot like me. He's, friendly and, well, yeah, you'd recognize him, I'm sure. You'd see him, yeah. He wouldn't hang out with those idiots.
Yeah, so it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Matt's facial expression gives nothing away.
Nothing at all. Okay, yeah, you head back to town, which doesn't take long. You've probably only been gone like an hour or two, and you're still in the morning. Noon has not yet arrived, and you make your way back to town and Constable Underhill. And as you do so, let's take a break. Let's take a 10-minute break, folks. We'll be back before you know it for more One Ring, but things like food and drink and other less polite things call until then. So yeah, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Goodbye.